Back in 2018, I read a book called Teaching Math with Google Apps 50 G Suite Activities by Alice Keeler and Diana Harrington. There's a quote at the beginning of the book that has stuck with me since then, and I may not have the words exactly right, but the gist was stop teaching as though the internet doesn't exist. I'll say that again. Stop teaching as though the internet doesn't exist. As a math teacher, that quote hit me hard. At the time, my colleagues and I were frustrated with Wolfram Alpha, a powerful tool that gave students detailed answers to high-level math. We regularly sat around the math office lamenting that students would lose their critical thinking skills because the internet was doing the work for them. I realized I had to stop fighting against technology that students were already using. I needed to figure out a way to work with it instead of fighting it. I'm sure how I was feeling as a teacher in the late 2010s was very similar to how my teachers felt in the early 1990s when the TI-82 calculator first came out. Fast forward less than 8 years, and I'm applying that exact same lesson to a new technology that is profoundly rocking the world of education: artificial intelligence. Since the release of ChatGPT in late 2022, AI has drastically changed how I work. The more I use it, the more I recognize our urgent need as educators to teach students how to use it and how to think critically about it. I often find myself analyzing AI's output, rejecting parts I know aren't true or don't fit my exact need. But our students are not always this discerning. They are more likely to take what AI says at face value without applying critical evaluation. So the question I ask is, how do we, as educators, start embracing AI ourselves and start teaching students the most effective and ethical ways to use AI? The 2025 Horizon Report highlights that AI is a rapidly evolving technology that is a part of every professional job, both in terms of how people use it in their work and how organizations use it to conduct business. As teaching and learning professionals, staff need to be fluent in AI to support students' development of AI fluency to equip them for the future of work. The report also stresses that the fast pace of AI's integration into daily life and learning requires that faculty be equipped to teach students about risks, benefits, and appropriate use. In order to do this effectively, teachers need to start with their own learning in order to have foundational knowledge of the AI tools available. Where I teach, this is the easier lift. Many teachers are already starting to use various AI tools to enhance their lesson planning and to streamline their workload, but resist the idea of allowing, or even, dare I say, teaching students how to effectively use AI. In a guide to AI in schools, Perspectives for the Perplexed, interviewed teachers largely agreed that students should be taught about AI, and even more specifically, that students need to understand which AI tools could support their learning versus the tools that might replace their learning. Here are a few reasons teachers gave for believing students should be taught about AI. Learning about AI promotes equity. Ensuring that students have the knowledge of AI in order to be competitive with their peers from across the country. Learning about AI is necessary preparation for the future. AI will impact so many parts of our future lives and jobs that we must prepare students for that reality. Learning about AI promotes best practices when using AI. By teaching them best practices, we can help ensure that they aren't losing their own voices when they work with AI and that they're using the tools for their maximum potential. They must be taught how to be discerning and critical consumers of the output and how to recognize when what they are seeing or reading might not have been created by a human. Learning about AI promotes responsible AI use and academic integrity. They need to ask the critical questions. Where did the data come from? What are the potential biases? Are there any privacy issues or copyright issues? They need to know how to maintain their academic integrity in this new landscape. Learning about AI tools helps them learn when to use or not use AI tools. Teaching students how to use the tools for their advantage and knowing when it will be a detriment to their own learning. Dr. Med Karba is a researcher in the field of educational technology and runs the popular blog Educators Technology. He shares a framework for how teachers can frame the learning at different levels of complexity for the learning. I was recently observing a teacher who was telling students that they are never allowed to use AI and any use of it is considered cheating. One example the teacher gave of using AI to cheat was to have ChatGPT create a study guide for them. I was floored. To me, Using AI to generate a study guide is exactly the best place to start, a small, low-stakes way to help students prepare without completing the core task for them. Carbach's framework encourages teachers to start small. We can introduce ways AI can help support students with recall. They can have students create quiz reviews or vocabulary checks. Teachers can also be transparent about when they have AI create resources like these for use in the classroom. A Spanish teacher at my school regularly uses Quizlets to help students master vocabulary. In addition to creating them for class, she teaches the students how to create this for themselves using AI. The next level of AI use is as a thought partner, guiding students as they use it to summarize ideas and help students make connections. When students use AI to help with strategic thinking, they should be getting feedback on their thinking and analyzing the outputs from AI more critically. One teacher I know has used AI to have students take on the role of a passenger on the Mayflower or a member of the Wampanoag tribe to describe their experience as a daily diary when they first encountered one another. Students interacted with the characters and could ask questions about what daily life was like. They were also able to critically analyze the AI outputs for biases and any factual errors based on what they had been learning in class. The final level of the framework focuses on the highest order thinking, ethical use, and content creation. This tends to be the level where teachers are most hesitant, fearing students won't create authentic content. But by teaching students to focus on their process, not just the product, we can preserve their unique voice and thoughts. Back in 1996, when my calculus teacher, Ms. Papa, embraced technology and taught us how to use the TI-82 calculator to help with calculus integration problems, it didn't steal my ability to think. Instead, it allowed me to think more critically because it handled the rote calculations, freeing my mind for deeper analysis. I mastered calculus not in spite of the tool, but because Miss Papa stopped teaching as though it didn't exist. When I learned to embrace the internet, it opened a new world where my students could use it as a powerful tool for deeper analysis. But first, I had to learn to stop teaching as though it didn't exist. These waves of change are accelerating, but each new revolutionary tool brings the same fear, that it will think for our children. But by embracing the calculator, students learn to solve more interesting complex problems. By embracing the internet, students learn to analyze and synthesize more deeply. And now, we need to embrace AI. It is not a question of if students are using AI, but how. It is our professional imperative to move past our fear and guide them through the best practices and ethical considerations. We must embrace the future. Let's stop teaching as though AI doesn't exist. Thank you.